Naomi, we are so excited to have you here with us today. Please, if you would allow me, I'm going to brag on you for just a minute. So Naomi was the #1 overall pick in the NWSL 2022 draft, and then proceeded to be named NWSL Rookie of the Year and Defender of the Year. For all of you who don't know, this is the first time that it has ever happened for the same player to win both awards. She's also a US Women's National Team center back and is a Stanford graduate with a major in symbolic systems. And she has continued to pursue a master's even after starting with the NWSL. For those in the audience who may not know, Naomi was kind enough to speak to our 2020 graduating class of seniors. And she has been such an inspiration to them all and to all of us. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah, thanks for the intro. And thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here and have loved working with Soccer Without Borders and everyone here.
Awesome. So let's get right into it. So a little bit about our work at SWB is that a huge part of our work is supporting newcomer youth through team and community-centered approach. In some of the interviews you've done, you've shared a bit about your experience as a first-generation American and how you've experienced different types of support throughout your careers. You've often said that your community has shaped who you are and where you are right now. So could you talk a bit more about the communities that have helped you get to where you are?
Yeah, I would say there are like 3 main communities that have helped me get to where I am today. As you mentioned, I'm first generation. My family's from Ethiopia, and that's actually how I started playing soccer. My dad started this thing called Malada Soccer in the Bay Area, and it was pretty much just Ethiopians getting together on Saturday and playing soccer and then having a barbecue. Soccer definitely wasn't the focus, but it was just a way for the kids to get together and for the parents as well, just to like have that shared community as we were all kind of going through the same experiences. So that's how I started playing soccer. And I think that's when I really fell in love with soccer. It was really for fun. There were no stakes, no pressure, just me playing with my brother and our friends and just having fun really. So that was really how I started playing. And then that kind of led into my second community, which was Central Valley Crossfire. So that was my first club team. I joined competitive soccer because my friend at the YMCA was like, you should just come with me. So I went with her after training, and her grandpa gave us a ride, and I showed up like really not sure if I could make the team or if I could play with them. And I ended up joining, I think, when I was 8 years old, and I played with them until I was 16. So that was my club team for most of my development in youth soccer. And that community, without that community, I wouldn't still be playing. Both my parents worked, and practice was at like 4 p.m. or 5 p.m., just times where my parents were still working and they weren't able to get me there. So I think until I was able to drive when I turned 16, I was in a carpool every single day for training. And I was probably still in a carpool when I was driving, but parents would come pick me up from my school, even though I didn't go to the same school as their kid. And they just made it feel like it wasn't a burden to get me to where I needed to be, whether it was games on the weekends or trainings on the weekdays. Yeah, they just kind of made it happen for me. I was able to get a scholarship to keep playing because it's even more expensive now, but youth soccer is just so expensive. And it's really hard to, make that the main priority as a parent when you're trying to make other ends meet. So that community really allowed me to like see myself being a soccer player. And through that, I started ODP, which is the Olympic Development Program. And that's how I ended up being scouted for youth national teams. So I attribute a lot of my success to them and just their kindness to help a kid out who they didn't know, I would get recruited for Stanford or play for the national team. It was just, I just wanted to play soccer and I loved it, and they made it happen for me. So I'm very grateful for them. And then my last community was Stanford. I was just, I mean, Stanford was a dream for me, and especially growing up in the Bay. And to get a scholarship there was just such a huge help for my family, and also just a big art opportunity for me to kind of, it just challenged me in a way that I had never been challenged before, and showed me these opportunities that I didn't even know were possible for myself. And yeah, it just exposed me to this whole new world. Even the opportunity to be a professional soccer player, I didn't know that was there for me until I went to Stanford, or play for the full national team, or start a business, or, like, it was on both sides, on and off the field. So I think Stanford just really tested me and stretched me, and really shaped who I am today. So I think one of the most special things about the communities I've been a part of is they're still with me now. It's kind of been like, as I left Malada to go play for Crossfire, they were always cheering me on. I would try to go back to Malada when I could, just to play. But and then as I went on from Crossfire, a lot of my club friends and teammates have come to games in San Diego, actually. So and same with Stanford. So it's just been great to kind of have that community, those communities continue to support me. And just, I try to tell them as much as I can, I wouldn't be here without you. So I hope they feel that way. I think you're muted.
Thank you. That was a great answer. And you touched on something that is a perfect segue into our second question, which is about SWB. We usually try to say it's not only about soccer, it's truly a tool to reach out and create bigger change. We try and use soccer as a vehicle for that social inclusion and youth development. What was a moment or memory in your life when you remember feeling like this game is a little bit powerful, is more powerful than what is happening right now on this field?
Yeah, I think the biggest moment that stands out to me was 2020 during Black Lives Matter and a lot of the protests. We at Stanford, we actually we weren't on campus. It was the spring when everything got shut down. Everyone was doing school on Zoom. Yeah, I think as a team, I remember we just got on a Zoom call and we're like, we have to do something, we have to say something. And we put a statement out on our Stanford Women's Soccer Instagram and Twitter, which I don't think a team had really done before. It's always like from the admin, never from the players saying what we wanted to say. And I think we kind of realized like, that's our power, that's our platform. And people are following these things to hear from us. And even being spread out across the country, there were no games happening. The fall season was canceled. People still listened and wanted to hear from us. And us doing something, saying something still made an impact. And so I think that was the first time I realized how powerful, soccer and sports can be beyond, winning on the field. And I think we ended up putting a fundraiser together, and it was I think for me, the most interesting part was seeing how receptive people were to it, because we always knew we had these things, but I don't think we thought people would listen or want to hear from it. But I think a lot of athletes during 2020 kind of found their voice and realized that not only do we have the opportunity, we also kind of have a responsibility to use these platforms that are given to us now to create change.
So again, brilliant. So you have this amazing talent of feeding your answer into the next question, which is amazing. And clearly you've done interviews before. So we're all here in the backdrop of the Men's World Cup, and also everything that is unfolding within the NWSL, specifically the Yates report. And one side of that story is the harm that has been caused, and kind of navigating or looking at how we exactly ended up here. And another more inspiring side of the story is this generation of players that is recognizing that this isn't okay and is speaking out, saying that enough is enough and calling and making actions for change. We've all noticed that change is impossible without acknowledging the harm that has been done. So can you tell us about what role you would like to play in this change and how you see yourself contributing in this future?
Yeah. As you mentioned, there's a lot of good and bad that happened, especially this year. I think it being my first year as a pro, it was like, I just learned a lot this year. And one of the main things that I took away, like you said, this generation right now kind of feels that responsibility to keep pushing the game forward and pushing for change. And just now being a part of the national team and going to our Players Association meetings, the things we talk about it's just like never about soccer. It's about equal pay, or how do we keep pushing the standards for other federations, not just in the US, and just really making sure that we're driving things forward. So I think that's been really inspiring for me, just to see older players kind of teaching me, like, this is how it's done, this is what we do. And I think it's really important that they're passing their wisdom on to us, because soon that'll be us that need to take the reins and keep pushing the change. So that's been really inspiring for me. And I think the main role that I see, at least in this upcoming year, is I'm a part of the US Soccer Safety Task Force, and I'm on the response and reporting subcommittee. So it's a group of athletes, lawyers, admin, and an older athlete reached out and asked me to be on it. And I think I was honored that they asked me, and I think I'm honored to be a part of that, because it's one of the main responses to the Yates report, as you mentioned. And it's in the beginning stages, but I think it's really exciting to see the leadership from Monashim and the work that they're willing to put in to just make soccer a safer sport across the US, and just really put these protections in place so that starting all the way from youth soccer to being a pro, like, you're protected and you're focusing on your game. And a lot of people who shouldn't be involved in the game aren't able to be. So yeah, I think that's the main way I see myself being involved this year. And then I'm hoping to just continue learning from the older players, and as years go on, continue pushing the change and just making sure we're not getting complacent in what has happened so far.
I think, creating those environments where there's that safe space is amazing. And thank you so much for the work that you are doing towards that, or the work that you're going to continue doing towards that. So we have a few kind of shorter and one-touch questions where you don't need to elaborate, some more funner questions. So these are going to be a little quick fire. So whenever we're ready, we'll get started.
Okay, doing no elaboration.
There we go. So do you have a favorite pre-game meal?
Yes. 3 pancakes, syrup, and a banana.
Nice, love it. What's the craziest name of a course you took while at Stanford?
Probably brain decoding.
Brain decoding. This one is a popular one. What is your favorite recommended Ethiopian dish?
Kutfo is my favorite. Yeah.
Do you have any interesting pre-game rituals?
Oh. Yeah, I do like 3 jumps and like a shift thing right before kickoff.
Awesome. And last one is, what is your go-to fun fact about yourself?
Okay, I'm not gonna elaborate. I don't like chocolate. Not fun, but it's okay.
You heard there's no elaboration. Awesome. Thanks, Naomi. And now we're going to have a few time for a few one or two questions from the audience.
Okay.
We're going to write them down in the chat and I will shoot them your way as they come up.
Awesome.
So audience, whenever you're ready, shoot some interesting questions that you may have for Naomi.
Yes, let's hear them. Why does he like chocolate? No elaboration. I can't answer that.
She's bound by the no elaboration rule.
I can't answer it.
She just cannot. This is a great one. If you had advice for your younger self, what would that be?
Let's see. I think I'll give one for like as a soccer player and then like off the field too. I feel like on the field, I would say don't compare yourself. I think because I didn't play in like ECNL or like a lot of the larger clubs where a lot of people were going to college from or going to youth national camps from. I like always wasn't sure how I'd measure up. So I like would doubt myself a lot of the time instead of being confident in like who I was and my ability. So I think just not comparing myself and showing up like this is who I am, this is how I play, like obviously wanting to get better, but just having confidence in the work I'd put in, even though it didn't look the same as everyone else. Oh, sorry, I forgot what I was gonna say. And then off the field, it would say I would tell myself to just use my platform earlier. And like I think a lot of times I feel like people don't want to listen or like don't want to hear from me or like don't want to listen. So I think just telling myself like there's a power in, you know, you speaking out and there are people who you can impact. And even if it impacts one person, then it's a win. So just no matter how big or small, I guess you feel like that platform is, it's still powerful. So that's what I tell myself for off the field.
That's amazing. One more. Who was your most influential coach and why? And what attributes did they demonstrate?
That's a good question. So hard to pick. I'll say probably my most influential coach was my club coach at Crossfire, so Bob Joyce. And I think that was my first introduction to formal soccer and just kind of like understanding like you have to hold yourself accountable and you have to work hard, like in conditioning you have to run and it's not just about natural talent, it's also about what you do with that talent and how hard you work. So I think that's what he kind of gave to me, because I think I could have been complacent during those years and not develop that mindset of like, yeah, like I might have some talent, but it doesn't matter if I don't work hard. So just I think he had a huge impact on me in that, and also just where he got me and the doors he put me through. He did all of my college recruiting. Like coaches would call him and then he'd tell me, like he was like, talk to everybody, like figure out what you want, and really gave me the advice of like, it's not just about soccer, it's also about your life. And take that into consideration when you're picking university. So he had a huge impact on me.
Question from Mike. How did your parents react to you becoming a professional soccer player?
Oh my gosh. My parents, like my dad like rewatches my games. And my mom was just so excited. She was like, she would drive me everywhere, but at first, like, she didn't really understand. She didn't know like offsides, and you know, there was like a red, white, and blue team. Like there was 3 teams, there's 3 levels, and I feel like me and her kind of learned everything together. And she's loved it. She's been to most games in San Diego because it's like a 1-hour flight. And she went to her first national team game that I was playing in November. It was in New Jersey and we have family there. So she went and she's like, it's just the best. She like includes herself. She's like, we won or like we lost. And it's pretty great that like they're experiencing it with me too.
Well, we have time for one last question. So this one is going to be, who is your mentor on the US women's national team, or who would you call someone who's been mentoring you?
That's a good question. I think I'm going to give two answers. I think in camp, my main one has been Becky Sauerbrunn. We play the same position and she's a legend. She's awesome and she's the captain. So I think just not only learning, like learning little tips and tricks from her on the field, but also I've learned a lot from her just about being a leader. And I mean, the national team is so unique because like you're together for 2 weeks at a time. So it's hard. I think it's hard to be, a captain or leader in that setting. So just really learning how she takes initiative, both for a lot of, any on the field issues, but also she's the one who's pushing a lot of the change off the field in our leadership group and things like that. And then I think another one has been Alex Morgan. We play together at San Diego, and then obviously she's on the national team. And she's just been really big in like sharing her wisdom about like just being a pro and like, for national team camps, they kind of layer them into seasons. So you'll be coming off of a game with club, you go straight to camp, then you come straight back to club and you have another game the next weekend. So it is a lot, and it's a lot of managing your body and making sure you're being honest about how you're feeling so that they can manage you if necessary, because it is a long season. So she's just been really great. And especially in my first year, just kind of teaching me the ways and just making sure that, any resource that I have that I didn't know about, that I'm using it. So yeah, they've both been really, really helpful in my first year.
Thank you, Naomi. Well, as I'm sure we can all imagine, the schedule of a pro athlete is pretty packed. I've been informed that you have training to go to after this. So thank you so much for coming and answering some questions. Thank you so much, Naomi.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Those were great questions. And yeah, I'm looking forward to watch the recording of the rest of the session. So sorry I have to leave, but thank you.
Thanks, Naomi. Have a great session.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye.